Hi, everybody, and welcome to the next Meditation Mastery Talk. I've been reflecting on what I should discuss for this week's talk, and I have a couple different things floating around, and I think I'll find a way to weave them together. But I kind of want to start from a place of sharing my own experience, what I've been practicing lately. And in Buddhism, the Buddha talked about the three Dharma seals. And he said that you'll know if a talk is authentic, if it's really the Buddha's teaching, because it'll embody these three different qualities. And one of the qualities is the quality of suffering, in terms of really understanding that there is nothing here in this place that can really bring a lasting fulfillment. And that's connected to the second quality, which would be this quality of, they say the word impermanence, but another word instead of impermanence, it could be change. But the actual Pali word of anicca, if you break it down, so in Pali, Pali's a language like Sanskrit, by the way, they would always put an A in front of a word to connote its opposite. So the word Nietzsche means dependability, if something's dependable. And the Buddha said, but everything is anicca, so it's not dependable. And things not being dependable, it could be things simply as, you want to plan a picnic, but it's raining, right? You can't predict the weather, right? So it's not dependable. But also the body is not really dependable. It eventually breaks down. Your own thoughts are not really dependable. Sometimes they think things that you don't even agree with or believe in. Your own feelings, not dependable, right? They're there and they're real in that sense, but if you really look at your feelings, you'll see that they don't always portray reality. They're not always actually harbingers of truth. Sometimes they're very skewed by different stories and perceptions. And the more that we kind of look at life and look at the different parts of our reality, we see that there's nothing that's really dependable. You can't really fully hang your hat on anything because all of it's so subject to change, and a lot of it's so conditional and uncertain, actually. And the third Dharma seal, anatta, this is the characteristic of compoundedness. So Thich Nhat Hanh would often give the example that if you take a flower and you look at it, you'll actually see that that flower, it's made of sunlight, and it's made of earth and water and a seed and time and space, and all of these different conditions, these factors, had to come together to create this flower. In this moment it looks this way, but even if you wait longer, you'll see that that flower grows, and then that flower also kind of falls away. And this is actually what emptiness means, is that there is no kind of individual self to anything you can hold on to. That everything is in this process of kind of coming together in manifestation and then breaking apart and going its separate ways. And anything that we see or take as an object, it's just in this moment the appearance of an object. But if you again spread it over a greater timeline, you would see that everything's just kind of arising and breaking apart again. So these are the three Dharma seals that the Buddha gave. Is that that there's the suffering, there's the nothing's dependable, there's nothing to hold on to, there's nothing that can really always be there for you. There's the change, there's the compoundedness. And there's a reason why he brings these factors, these qualities in. And one of them is, I would say, the universality of them. I often look at the world around me and say, really, the only truth in the world is the truth of change, of movement, that everything is just moving. There's nothing much I can say about this world or this life or this universe except that everything is moving all the time. And the other reason that the Buddha spoke about these things was because he wanted to bring your mind into a certain place, right? If we talk about things like suffering, a lot of people think, well, everything's not suffering, or there's a lot of great things here too. But the Buddha brought in that term suffering because it's like, if you can really reflect on suffering, if you can reflect on the difficulties, if you can reflect on the pains, on the disappointments, all these kinds of things, it actually starts to create a bit of a release in you when you meditate. It's this really kind of weird thing that the mind, it keeps looking for happiness in objects and situations and roles and positions and things, external things. It wants to have things. And the more that you can reflect on the unsatisfactoriness of everything, it actually allows the mind to let go and find that happiness and that peace within. So, far from being a pessimistic viewpoint, thinking that everything is suffering or painful or whatever, it's actually just a tool. It's a way to reflect on the world, to allow your mind to start to release and to actually find this peace and happiness inside. And then no matter what happens around you, your internal state is kind of unshaken, because you say, yeah, I already knew that everything out there is anyway going to be changing, it's going to be moving. It's going to let me down eventually anyway. And that's fine, because I'm not depending on any of that stuff for my peace anymore. So it kind of has this framework for your own reflection. So I've been reflecting on this in my daily life, and although I meditate, sometimes in my daily life I'm not in a monastery anymore. I am living a life, so I do, have to go out and I have to do things, and I'm in many different situations. And I've been really reflecting on the principle of change, and in terms of watching the change of situations. That the other day I started here and I went for a walk in the woods, and then I went to the gym, and then I went swimming in a pond, and then I came back, and then I was at a festival, and then I was at all these different things happening. And I just kept dropping in at each new place I went to, each new situation. I'd be present. I remember I was swimming in the pond and looking at the water, and wow, just really being present in this situation. And then the next thing I knew, I was kind of in the car, and I was just there in that situation. And the next thing I knew, I was back home, and kind of dropping in at each new scene change, as far as like the movie of your life. Really just noticing each new scene change. That's like, oh, okay, now I'm here. Oh, now I'm here. Now I'm here. Now I'm doing this. And starting to become familiar with that sense of change in the scenes, in the different places that you are, in the different activities. Notice the in-between states, right? So not just noticing, like, now I'm talking to this person, now I'm eating, now I'm doing this, but also try to look at the in-between states as well, the transitional states, I guess we could call them. And the more that you start reflecting on just this change of scenes in your life, each new scene, right now you're listening to me talk, then you'll be meditating, then you'll be getting up, then you'll be doing the next thing. And just drop in at each new scene change and just notice, okay, now I'm here, now I'm here, now I'm here. That you bring that presence to each new scene change, but it also starts building up in your mind a perception of change, a perception of flow, of impermanence, in that sense, of how each thing is just very temporary and here right now, this present moment, this now moment, this thing is happening now, and then it's gone and there's a new now moment, and then that's gone and there's a new now moment. And just starting to bring a rough awareness to that process, I found to be incredibly helpful, very humbling in a lot of ways too, just to see how everything is just flowing and there's really nothing that I can hold on to in the long run. But it starts to also free up the mind, free up the heart. And I also think that what weaves nicely into this is just another quality of slowing down. I think just by saying slowing down, everyone listening can kind of nod their head and say, yeah, slowing down is needed. Everything is moving very fast these days, especially with our phones and, the news and the stories and the emails and the texts, and we're always kind of connected. And even when there's nothing to do, we're still kind of scrolling all these things that are happening. And then we're out shopping, or some of you picking up your kids, or you have to, do dinner or clean or just do all these things. And I see at our house, I feel like I'm making dinner, and then I'm doing the dishes, and then I'm cleaning, and I have to put the clothes away, and then it's like there's always something to do, and then when all that stuff's done, then it's like, okay, well, now I want to do something for myself, right? Something that feels kind of filling for me and refreshing or nourishing for me. And there's just kind of this constant state of doing, again, even without the phones and without the computers, that add this extra layer of busyness, of things going on, even that aren't in your kind of physical environment. So when I say slow down, it kind of means to start to take those breaths to, when you have a moment, instead of picking up the phone, maybe just stand up and walk around a little bit, just get back into the body, maybe sit and breathe, maybe go outside or to a window, and just kind of look and drop in to really slowly start building up the momentum, building up that karmic force of contentment, of really feeling like everything is okay. Yeah, that right here, right now, in this place, everything is fine. It's not like it's going to happen later. It's just right now. If I can make peace with right now, that's all that I'm going to need. That's all that matters. That's kind of it. So slowing down, also the meditations help us to slow down, right? These processes of meditating that I'm going to be walking you through in the next video. And as you slow down and you drop into each moment, all these other factors start to arise. When I was in Plum Village practicing with Thich Nhat Hanh, everything that Thich Nhat Hanh did, he would do in slow motion, I guess you could say. So wherever he walked, he would walk very slowly. Each step he would be present with, right? He said you can find freedom with every step, freedom with every breath, right? When he would eat, he would just eat very mindfully. He would really look at the food. He would taste it. He would feel it, reflect. He'd be very present. And everything was slower, and the community was very slow too because of that. And they even consciously and purposely slowed down. In their dining halls, there was clocks on the wall, and every 15 minutes, the clocks would chime. And every time you heard this chime, whatever you were doing, you would just stop. Right, so if you were eating, you would just freeze in place. If you were talking with somebody, if you were cleaning, or it was some other time, not a meal time, and the clock chimed, you might be in a conversation and the clock chimes, and you both just stop, and then you just breathe. You take 3 deep breaths. And it was interesting because there was some times where I would be talking with somebody and the clock would chime, and we would stop and we would take these 3 deep breaths, and then we'd look at each other and just smile and then just keep walking. So it was almost because we had this moment to stop and to slow down and to drop in and to breathe. When we came out, we both realized there's really nothing to even talk about, and we just smiled and kept walking. The conversation just kind of very beautifully and organically just ended because we were both able just to be present. And when you find these little pockets of time to be present throughout your day, throughout your life, it also allows you to kind of let go of things that don't really matter. It allows you to just be more present, to transition, to feel just more content with wherever you are, whatever you're doing. They call it it's like the drop method, that you can even on your phone or on your watches or on your computers, there's like mindfulness bells that every hour they make a chime, right? And every time you hear that chime, you stop and you breathe a couple times, and then you go back to whatever you were doing. So you can actually take the meditation, and instead of just sitting like this in front of the phone and doing your little meditation and going into your life, you can actually find little ways to incorporate your meditation into your life. Another way is, for instance, every time you drink water, maybe you can make a little thing where you take the water, and just before you drink, you take 2 breaths or 3 breaths, looking at the water, and then you drink it, right? Or before you brush your teeth, you could do a little something. So you could weave little kind of meditative acts or events into your daily life, into daily activities that you're doing, to kind of just bring your mindfulness and bring your mind back into that new situation. At Thich Nhat Hanh Center, they had these things called gathas, which they're almost like little poems. And there's a gatha for drinking tea, there's a gatha for going to the bathroom and for washing your hands, and there's a gatha for putting on your clothes and getting out of bed, and for meditating. So every kind of act that you do, there's a little gatha, and the gatha it would be something along the lines of, right when you wake up in the morning, the gata is, waking up, I smile, 24 brand new hours are before me. I vow to live in a way that brings freedom and happiness to everyone, right? For instance. And or washing your hands, as this water touches my hands, I'm reminded of the purity of mind that I search for or something. So you can actually weave little kind of poems or little meditative acts or events into your daily actions, which also helps bring the mind in. A really easy one that almost happens automatically for me anyway is anytime my mind feels irritated or agitated. So it's like if I feel mad, if I feel an aversion, if I feel pretty much anything that's very strong and unpleasant, I naturally take that as a moment to breathe and to step back and to feel, to not be reactive. But anytime I feel something that's really kind of difficult, that maybe just arises for no particular reason, or maybe is directly tied to a situation that I'm involved in this moment, I take it as a moment to just breathe and to feel and to kind of reflect on okay, what is this, what's going on, where is it coming from, and to really try to feel it and kind of gain some information to see what I can do to shift it or accept it or welcome it, or just kind of what is needed in that moment. And this kind of happens naturally because anyway, when you get a feeling, if you feel stressed or anxious or whatever, you're naturally kind of thrown, you're kind of knocked off course a little bit. Something comes up and suddenly you're like, oh gosh, I feel stressed. And anyway, you kind of are forced to take a step back. So, it's really up to each one of us how in our daily lives we want to weave the practice in more. And what it would mean for each one of us to slow down, for instance, or what it would mean for each one of us to bring more reflection into our daily life, or, as I was saying before, to notice the scene changes, to be aware of how everything keeps changing and changing and changing. And the more you can become aware of this, again, building up this perception of change, you will start to be able to gain freedom because you start to let go a little bit more, right? And this is kind of what Buddhism is all about. It's learning how to release through wisdom because we understand, because our mind is focused, right? You're noticing the changes, so your mind is starting to focus on this. And as your mind is collected around something, around this perception of change, that's then when wisdom arises, right? And through wisdom we find our freedom, our peace, right? So in Buddhism, that's kind of the path, is by bringing the mind together on a specific thing, it arises an understanding, and that understanding brings us peace and freedom. So really finding for yourself how to incorporate those things into your life, and in a way that's, these meditations are great, the talks, and then also the meditation video that I'll do after, where you're, physically and, practically taking time out of your life to sit and to do this and to, like a formal meditation, and then you go back into your life. But I would say that it's also important to find these ways to weave it into your daily life, but in a way that it's not so demanding of your time or your energy. To, every time you drink water, just to smile at your water and then drink it. It's not really that big a deal. Any time that you're just, in any moment, just dropping in and realizing fully, okay, now I'm sitting here on my balcony giving my talk. The next moment, wow, now I'm eating, now I'm in the car. Just that in each moment, just to drop in and acknowledge this new moment, this new moment, this new moment. It's super easy. There's really nothing you have to do. It's not like an extra. It's not like watching these videos, these meditations. It's like an extra thing you have to create. Finding ways that you're already doing these things, you're already driving, you're already, and just this little shift of perception, it doesn't require much energy. And that makes it also easy. It's easy to do because it doesn't take much. So for the meditation today, I really want to bring in the quality, the state of presence, of just presence. So kind of hitching on to what I was saying before about slowing down. When you slow down, where does that bring you? That just starts to bring you more and more into this moment, right? That slowing down kind of creates this like telescopic microscopic effect that you focus more and more and more into this moment, right? That as things slow down, you're just here. And time starts to stretch out as well. I know that when I meditate for, longer amounts of time, if I meditate for like a couple hours, and then I open my eyes and I just look at a clock, I'll just see the minute hand on the clock. And the minute hand on the clock looks like it's ticking like seconds, right? Because the mind is so still and so calm and so peaceful that time is moving at a completely different rate. Yeah, versus I'm sure we all know the experience when we're stuck in traffic or we're in a situation that's really unpleasant. Every minute feels like an hour, right? Because you just want this to be over, right? But it's not. You're resisting the present moment so much that it's like you're stuck, you're like in a cage, right? Versus when you're kind of completely present, just time stretches out and it creates this beautiful, almost like the feeling of, it's like an eternity in this moment, and it feels very freeing, and it feels very beautiful, and this feeling of contentment and peace. All these qualities are kind of present at once, and it's really great. And one of the things that I've really found is helpful for all of that, and I lead my meditations, I start them like this, but it's also just using the body awareness, feeling the body sitting here, right? It's super easy. It's kind of like what I was saying before. It doesn't take any extra effort at any moment just to acknowledge your body is sitting here. Yeah. If you ever want to meditate, but you're kind of like not in a place, or you can't close your eyes, maybe you're in a business meeting, but it's boring, and you can't meditate, but you want to be you want to be doing something meditative for yourself, you can actually just sit and feel your body. Yeah, that there's potentially nothing more in a single moment that you could do except just drop in with your body awareness. And that's enough. Feel your feet on the ground, feel yourself sitting here, feel the clothing on you. Yeah, this is one of these really easy tools to meditate in your daily life wherever you are, is just come back to the feeling of your body. Yeah, if you have 5 minutes instead of going through your phone, just sit and just feel your body. Yeah, you can scan your body if you want, right? There's techniques where you can scan kind of down through the body, feeling the body, from the head down to the feet, then from the feet back up to the head, feeling the body in stages. Or you can literally just sit there and you just feel your body. You just sit and you just feel your body. And it's enough. It's very simple, it's very basic. Not much is going on, but it's actually quite profound when you practice it, because you're just allowing yourself to rest in this moment. You're allowing this just to be enough. There was a story that I read from one of these great Thai forest teachers. He's actually English though, his name's Achan Samido, and he was meditating in a cave in Thailand. And he was saying that it was, the rainy season, and it was just sweaty and it was hot. Or it's the hot season, sorry. So it's not that it was raining, it was just really hot, but he was sweating so much that he was always just wet and like sticky and hot. So it was like the hot season. And he was sitting in a cave, and he said it was really kind of difficult, miserable. And there'd be different people that were coming through Thailand, and they'd be saying, they have this pill in America that you could take for enlightenment, right? I think it was like LSD at the time. It was like in the 60s. Like, yeah, you just go and you take this pill and you're free. What are you sitting in a cave for? Or, yeah, there's these great teachers in Burma teaching all these amazing techniques. What are you doing? And he said that he was sitting in this cave and reflecting on all these different people that would come through the monasteries, over time, saying all these stories and all these things to do and to teach. And he's sitting there in a cave, and he's like, should I be going to America and taking these pills? Should I be going to Burma? Should I be going somewhere else, doing something else? And he said that he would look out of the cave and he would see these buffalo, these like water bison. And he said they were probably the dumbest looking animals he'd ever seen. And they would just be eating kind of grass and just kind of like wet stuff out of the water. And they would just be like chewing. And he said they just looked really stupid and really plain and boring and slow. And he thought to himself, I've spent my whole life trying to be interesting, trying to be engaging, having good stories to tell, good jokes, being insightful, really being able to to be an important part of the society, of my family, of the communities that I was in. And he said, in all of those skills, when you're sitting in a cave, they have no place. So he said, like, his ego was freaking out because it's like, it's, you know, all these skills that built up to be important, to have control, to be good, they had no place. And he kind of watched these water buffalo, and he said, you know, I'm going to make a prayer. He goes, may I become as stupid as these water buffalo. And he said, actually, may I, instead of trying to become more interesting, may I start to let go of that. May I start to become more plain, more boring, more humble. And he said, and you know what? If nothing else, may I, in this lifetime, be able to develop a little bit of patience. He said, even if I don't get enlightened, I don't have to become a Buddha or an enlightened being. He said, if in this lifetime I just learn to be a little bit more patient, then I've done enough. And I really felt that strongly in my heart when I read that. And I also thought something as simple as that, you know, it's so beautiful and so powerful. And just to think, you know, may I just be able to become a little more present, right? May I be able to let go a little bit more, right? It's not about doing more things, getting more things. It's like, can I just let go a little bit more, be a little bit more simple, a little bit more present, a little bit more content just being here with whatever's here, right? Just sit and feel my body sitting here, right? It's kind of boring, it's kind of dull, there's not much to it, but in a way that's kind of the point, is to really become more simple and more easy and not be trying to develop things to be getting more things, right? But instead to be letting go of things and just being okay with how things are, not needing to add on to it, right? Not needing to compound, but allowing things just to be really easy and simple. And this really starts to bring also the sense of freedom, because you feel that this is enough, that there's nothing to do outside of this, that I am enough, that everything is okay. And it starts to kind of create this release. And again, as you reflect on how everything's moving and changing, you know, alongside of that, so bringing all these different strands together, like I said, like weaving all these different bits together, it starts to create a really solid understanding and a really solid perception. Because on one hand, you realize there's nothing out there that you really need or want, or that you're even able to hold on to forever, as it were. And simultaneously you're realizing, and this moment right here, it's enough. This is actually okay. I feel fine. So you're building up contentment with this, and you're building up kind of dispassion and release for that. And those two things working together, that's really going to create this beautiful place that you'll be able to drop in deeply, and you'll be able to let go, and you're really able to find just more peace and happiness in your daily lives, right? In your general mindset, it'll just become more relaxed, more open, more happy. Because everything's okay, and you don't want it to be any other way, right? So happiness doesn't come from getting everything we want. Happiness comes from being free of the wanting. So it's not like when we get all of our wishes fulfilled, which is an endless pursuit, if you think about it. You get the magic lamp, I wish for more wishes, right? Because I want more, I want more, I want more, I want more. That's endless. That's endless. And as much as that feels amazing, I want a lamp that gives me a million wishes, there's something to that actually you'll constantly be in a state of feeling unfulfilled, of wanting more. It actually feels like it would get extremely exhausting and difficult. It almost feels like a drug addict, right? That you need more, you need more, you need more, you need the next wish, the next thing, right? So maybe instead of getting this lamp that gives you everything you want, maybe what would bring more is to say, like, I want to be free of wishes, right? There's nothing that I want. I want to just be here. I want to be able to let go, to feel totally content with wherever I am, with whatever's going on, to feel that peace and that freedom in my heart all the time. So that's kind of the place that we're aiming for in the meditation. It starts to just help us step by step get there, familiarize us with that path, and give us kind of these deep breakthroughs in that direction, right? That slowly shifts our default state of mind into a place of peace, of space, of kind of happiness, of freedom. So that's why the more you practice meditation, and then also as you're bringing these realizations into your daily life, as you're shifting your perceptions in your daily life, all of this together will really start supporting you and moving you forward. So I guess with this talk, I'm kind of bringing us one step deeper into the practice from the previous talks, of really some practical ways to start shifting your awareness, your perceptions in your daily life, to start bringing kind of the meditative mind and these qualities into everything that you're doing in a sustainable way, that you're going to start feeling that this meditative energy is always present, right? Just being aware of each situation you're in, just dropping on with the feeling of your body sitting here, focusing on the change of what's going on, feeling that everything right now is okay. Just bringing these things up whenever they just naturally arise throughout the day, just noting it, you know? Oh, it's a new scene. Okay, I've noted it. Keep going. Then it'll be a new scene. Note it. Keep going. And eventually, just this process of just noting it, being aware of it, right? Inclining your mind towards it, it'll start to build up this momentum that'll carry on and create kind of a new resonance, kind of like a new frequency, a new vibration in your awareness, that you're starting to kind of, string these moments together. And also just remembering that ultimately, again, at the end of all of this, the whole practice, it's about freedom, it's about peace, it's about happiness, right? So all of these realizations, all these things you're making, these experiences you're making, all of the tools that I'm giving you are to lead you to a place of release, that you feel more free, that you've let go more, right? So the practice shouldn't make you feel more stressed. If I say to you that time's ticking, it's like, I don't want to give you like this pressure and the stress, like time's ticking, or that everything is suffering. Like there's ways to take these tools that are not very helpful. So just remember that each of these tools, although, maybe it's not what you want to think about, right? We don't necessarily want to think about how everything's changing and moving. We don't necessarily want to think about how there's nothing kind of solid or permanent there for us. But if you do think about those and you allow those in, they'll actually bring you to this place of freedom and of peace that you've been wanting, right? So sometimes the way to get what you deeply want, it's by kind of letting go of the manifestations, right? So it's like you don't necessarily want this thing, you wanted that feeling of contentment that you get when you have this thing, right? Whatever this thing is, this could be anything, right? Again, it could be a relationship, it could be a job, it could be a skill that you've learned, it can be money, it can be just whatever this thing is. And you're like, when I have this thing, I'll be happy. It's like, well, why don't you just try to get that happiness directly? Why don't you bypass this whole thing and really say, if I want happiness, what is the way? And maybe the way to happiness is letting go of wanting it, right? Really realizing that you're okay, that everything's fine. So kind of shifting that perception and a new perspective, and really seeing that, this moment is enough, I'm enough, feeling your body, noticing the scene changes, really starting to create this new kind of resonance coming into your life. And see if you could do that for this week, right? So just for this week, just, again, really easy. Don't feel like this is like this new thing I'm going to go do, but really just very easily, just note, scene change, scene change, scene change, very easily, naturally, and see what it does. And I'd be interested to also hear your reflections. So yeah, that's my talk for this week. Thanks for listening, and check out the meditation right afterwards.